I don't know the rest.
That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know.
Well, I'm
Well,
going to just say welcome to the episode final countdown for Sinner's Isle cover release.
woo! I don't know what that was.
I loved it.
Thank you.
The official new Sinner's Isle cover release dance.
Yes, yes. This week we shall be revealing the cover of Sinner's Isle, which I'm very excited about. I can't freaking wait. I've had a few people message me throughout the day, like today, yesterday, the day before. Someone messaged me today, was like, I don't want to make you panic, but your cover is already up. It's like, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And then a lot of just screaming, which I love. I love a good scream about the cover. I agree. It is everything. So thank you to all our friends who have been screaming with me secretly behind the scenes of the cover. But yes, it is up. Sinner's Isle is live. It's up on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Books a Million and Target and all the things. So it's happening, Melanie.
And by the time this episode is out, it will be revealed.
It'll be revealed. It will be. Thursday is the day. Thursday morning, bright and early, I'm getting up and I'm posting. And I plan on doing nothing else all day but enjoying it and drinking water and
Yes.
having good food, just like our amazing guest Trang said. Their suggestion was dead on. Enjoy good food. And that's what I'm going to do. I'll probably,
Yes.
I don't know what kind of food, but I will be eating something delicious.
You should just Uber Eats to yourself all day.
All day long.
Yeah, when I'm like really busy, I pretty much just that's one of my love language to myself. Like, I mean, I'd have to be super busy to do all three meals, but I won't say I haven't done it once. I have.
And you deserved it. And whatever it was, you earned that.
I think it was when we were in lockdowns, and then sometimes you couldn't go to the shops for stuff and whatever, but Uber was still functioning. Scam alert. Like Uber was like well functioning, and they would deliver from like 5-star, like Melbourne, like one of the restaurant that I put in my book in Beyond Love, Winton. It's based on like Chin Chin, which is like in the city. It's like one of everyone knows it. And Chin Chin would deliver to my freaking door during lockdown. They do not anymore because
Oh.
it's kind of like one of those quirky you have to show up places. But in lockdown, we had that shit delivered to our door, and I had no guilt about that because we were in lockdown. But no,
Yeah.
it is. Is it like? I bet it must make the excitement be building even more, having people like, because that feels more fun, even having people like secretly come upon it
Yes.
to be like, that's like, I had this like cute little flush for that person who was like worried for you. You
I
already
know.
have fans who are like looking out for you, like, oh my gosh, I must protect Angela from
It
this.
made me feel so good. It did. I was like, oh, thank you. Like if I didn't know, I would have been horrified. So the fact that someone was like, hey, just the FYI, just to warn you, it was like, thank you. I appreciate it. No, it's all the behind the scenes of people just DMing me of like, bitch, what? Like it just makes it all that much more fun. Like you said, it's
Yes.
so fun and getting like people excited. But I think more than that, like it's those little moments like this where people are just reaching out either out of the blue or that are friends that are just screaming about it, makes it all so much more fun. I mean, it's these little moments of just friends, you know what I mean? That I think is just is probably even better than like a big reveal, which will be fun and exciting, but like these little moments with my loves is just so cool. So
Yes, and I'm so impressed with you for setting the day aside for that, because there'll be enough. like you'll have the day full trying to keep up with messages and like actually post all this stuff up. Like it's enough. You need the day. Hydrate, eat well, like you said. Like that's good self-care right there. And I feel like it's like giving yourself permission to really enjoy this like once in a lifetime moment. You're only going to have one debut, like this is this time to like sink back and enjoy all the hard work you've been putting in. And I think a lot of people probably miss that moment because if it's like so busy around then, or they still have other stuff. They might not be able to take the day off or whatever, but like I feel like everyone should try because yeah, like you should get to enjoy it and have a moment to revel with your fans.
Yes, just celebrate it. Like it's an accomplishment, and it's just fun. So why not just have a fun day? So
Yes.
speaking of revel, actually, I'm reading Lissa Mia Smith's Revel right now.
Yes.
Melanie, it's so good. It's so as I mean, you would only expect that from Lissa Mia Smith.
Yes.
You know, I would expect nothing better or worse or whatever. I don't know where
nothing less.
Nothing less. Thank you. Thank you. I would expect nothing less from Lissa Mia Smith, but she has provided. It's so good. I'm obsessed. I read like 100 pages yesterday.
Oh my gosh. I'm getting such major like Caravel vibes from it. And not just because I think it's going to feel the same in theme. I have a feeling when I read it, it will surprise me in that way. Like something that feels like fresh and new and it just grabs you by the cloak and drags you along.
Yes, drag me, honey. It's so good. It is. It's like it takes you to this world that is so unfamiliar but familiar at the same time. So it's just I love it. I love it. So if you're listening, congratulations. You wrote one hell of a book.
Yeah. Is there any, do you know, like, I digress, but is there any word on anything with that HarperCollins situation? Do you know anything else?
I think they have come to somewhat of an agreement. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's an agreement that they're both happy with. I do not know. I guess I should look into it more and see what's happening. But yeah, freaking HarperCollins.
I know. Hopefully it all like comes to a head and finishes because it just seems like it's been brutal on everyone.
Yeah, it has. Well, and speaking of publishing houses, I got the news this week and I had my moment of sorrow. But I got the news that I will not be receiving physical ARCs for Sinner's Isle. And I had this moment where I got the email because I kind of wasn't on it. Maybe this was arrogant of me,
No.
but I wasn't expecting that to happen. I figured I would get it because friends that are in the same like publishing imprint have received, so I just kind of thought, oh, maybe, I just dumbly thought.
You just assumed that it would be the next step to happen. Like that's not dumb at all.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, so I got the email from my editor that it's just like a publishing house, Penguin Random House. It's like something they implemented the last couple of years that they can't do physical ARCs for every author. And so I am one of those authors that won't get a physical ARC, but I will get loads of e-ARCs to give out, and I'll get my author copies, which I can't freaking wait. Yeah. And but I won't be getting the physical ARCs to give. But I spoke to other authors who are in the same position, and they're just like, hey, at the end of the day, here's something to think about. You'll save on shipping. so I thought, you know what? That's true. And I'm a very bad shipper. I have boxes of things to ship and I forget sometimes. So maybe Penguin Random House knew that about me. Maybe they understood that.
Yeah. But you'll get the copies you said?
Yeah, that I believe that's part of my contract, so that will happen. But But what was I gonna say about it? What I was proud of myself for, because I'm very good at just sweeping things under the rug and just moving on, and putting on the just, who cares about the negative? Just think of the positive. We're good. We're good. But I let myself have a little cry. I let myself have like a little woe is me moment. And I was proud of myself for letting me feel things, because I don't like feeling things. And so,
I'm
so
proud of you too.
yeah.
No, I totally understand what you're saying. And like for some reason, we have this instinct to not do that, to not allow ourselves to feel that pain. But I bet you felt better afterwards, because like you gave that moment, it is like you were expecting something that you had seen other people get and you were anticipating, and it didn't happen. And it's natural to feel like let down, disappointed, sad. And like, you're right. Like, we don't always have to like put on a smile and pretend it's fine. You're allowed to be sad about it. It doesn't mean you are not thankful for your other stuff just because you're sad about one thing. And so I am super proud of you. It's something I'm trying to learn as well. She's trying to learn it a lot as well, to not just always do the smooth over, which is helpful in situations. We would be the ones who could like talk down like a really intense person who was like, do you know what I mean? Because we would find a way to just like smooth it down, be like, watch some K-drama.
It's true. It's
like
so
a
true.
helpful skill, actually, but we don't have to apply it to every aspect of our lives.
Yes. No, it's true. It's very true. I remember my stepdad told me that I was annoying one time because like something bad happened and I just went, well, like, it's fine. We'll just keep going. He's like, why are you like this? And I'm like, I don't know. So I'm trying to, not because of him, but like, I'm trying to let myself feel and be okay with disappointment. And like you said, it's not that I'm ungrateful for all the stuff that I have, because there's so much, but it was just this one thing that I did. I just expected and it didn't happen. So I was like, oh, well, poop. Yes. But then of course she kicked back into gear and, moved on. And now I'm completely fine with it. I'm really excited it'll be really fun to actually get my author copies and be completely surprised about everything. So there's that.
That's the thing. Like, maybe that's why they're like starting to like just peter out with that. Like, because if you get author copies and it's like the final book, I mean, it's even better.
Yes, exactly. And I think e-arcs like are very popular. It's an easy thing to get just right on your phone. So
I was gonna say, let me tell you, like the little indie book I had published, like a lot of my reviews that are on Goodreads from that are because she were hustling and sending out e-arcs. Like, some people are really into the e-arcs. Costs you nothing to send. People are still so excited to get it because they're getting the material before anyone else. So you might actually find, especially you with your platform on TikTok and Instagram and, well, Twitter.
You just throw that one in there. That one's a lost cause, but yeah.
It's a lost cause. But like, you do have that platform, and you'll probably be able to give out a lot more than you would have with physical ones.
I thank you. Yes, I agree. I wish we could have your book. I wish we had, but the publishing house is no longer with us, right? Your indie.
Look, I could have self-published. Like, I definitely had that option, but I was like so new into the industry. And to be honest, the initial contract that they picked me up when I won that competition, the initial contract was that they were going to do everything for me, like publish it, and then I would own it and like self-published. But then they turned around and like granted my dream, and was this that I didn't know I had, and we're just like, listen, we actually want to start to try be our own publishing house. We want to take you on as our first author because we love you. And I was just like, Like it was, so when they were like a year later, they were like, yeah, we tried it out. It wasn't for us. We're gonna just like go back to being like just pub house for our own. I had been fucking hustling, man. Like that year, I hustled because I was like, I'm gonna show them what they get with me.
Yes,
I
yes.
was like, I printed like 1,000 stickers of the little cat. This is it, it's here. This character, Grimbuckle. That was like the
Yeah.
little like troll creature in the book. I printed thousands of them and I like stuck stickers all over Melbourne and I like stuck like so people could look it up on Instagram. Man, the stuff I got it into National Geographic Kids magazine.
I
Like,
didn't know that. Look
yeah,
at you, hustler.
she hustled. I got it everywhere I could. And then when they were like, oh, yeah, it's not for us. I'm not gonna lie, I was so salty, so devastated. I was like, I can't go to self-publishing after having a pub house behind me. And like in hindsight, I should have just fucking self-pubbed because it was like already ready to go. It was already set up everywhere. But you live and learn. And I don't regret like letting that kind of go and like focusing on polishing my craft and looking for an agent, because that's kind of what that experience taught me, to be honest. Like what I mourned the loss of was the team. I really wanted the team. I know this about myself. I don't want to do it alone. I find that to be too, some people love mixing the business side with, and those people tend to flourish in indie. Like I have this one friend in Australia, Eleanor Page, and when you talk to her, she's a crack up. Like she never even considered trad pub. She's just like, she wants the control. She likes to do it herself. And yeah, but like for me, I was like, no, this was like solidifying to me how important that team is and how much I wanted that, because it's different when you have that network and that support around you. So
Yes.
yeah.
I hear that. I hear that. No, that's exactly why I wanted to do trad pub, because I knew I needed that as well. And who's to say someday I don't write something and I'm like, I can do it.
Yeah.
And I totally will totally like look into indie pub and
Yeah.
self pub. Like if there's a book I write that's like all just like maybe it's not for the trad market, I'm like, well, I'll do it. Am I ready yet? Am I like I need that team as well. I need somebody that's like, okay, let's edit this about 50 times. Let me help you with this and that, because I'm just not there yet. Even as a writer, I'm not there yet. I'm not like confident in myself enough to be like, okay, it's ready. Let's publish. I need somebody to hold my hand at this stage in my life and possibly for forever. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, but it's relatable. And like, I might get that back up one day. It wouldn't take me much to put it back up in the indie channels. But yeah, like for me, it was that as well. Just wanting to feel like it's not like I'll never look into indie again as an option. Like you said, some books might not hit. It might come to the point where I'm like, hang on, but I wanted it to come to the point where I was like, I know in here that this is good enough to sit next to any book on that shelf. I wanted to work hard enough to feel that myself, and I definitely didn't feel like it was there with the team, yeah, it was, but like as a person in and of myself, I have no regrets about like hustling to find my community. And like, yeah, it's been, I know we come back to that a lot, but I was just thinking now when I've started querying again and going in now and querying agents, it is so, so different to how it was before. Like when I used to query, like in the years past, it would be like setting out to a foreign sea in like a dinghy. Whereas like now I feel like, when you like go to uni or college for the first time and the whole campus is like unfamiliar and you're like, I don't know anything. But then like 6 months later, you kind of like know most of the buildings, where the cafeteria is. You've like got a few secret places, little doors, if you go there, there's a little room you can find something. there's still new things you're finding all the time, but like now it feels familiar when I go like the agents, and we've obviously had a bunch of them on the show and stuff. So sorry, that was a long ranty.
No, but it makes complete sense. And I can hear that and feel that from you, especially reading your query letter and your latest work. Like you have been hustling and putting in the work and growing. And it feels like from an outside perspective, but also I'm like deep inside. I am here with you. We are one brain. But it totally feels that way. Like querying this time around is you're going into it with this confidence, and you know, it's not like, oh, I'm the shit, but it's like, I
Right.
know what I'm doing. I've done this, I've learned from it, and I'm comfortable here in this space. And I can feel that from you, and it's really, really cool knowing that, you know, you didn't just give up. You pulled back and then went and learned and did it again and
Mm.
learned again. And, you know, so it's like this constant progression, which I think a lot of people, when it gets hard, just stop progressing. But you dug down and progressed like hardcore. And I think that's just so beautiful. And I'm just here to learn from you, Melanie Schubert.
I'm here to learn from you, Montoya. You're gonna make me cry again every episode.
That's what I live for.
I appreciate it. You know, like I also think it's just like the mark of like you said the right thing that your friend tears up. You know, like is it wrong if that's our mark for what we say? Yes, I may have gotten out a couple queries yesterday, so it is the first foray for Beyond Love, The Knight in Rusted Armor, my messy millennial paranormal rom-com. I had the, you know, you're talking about those little moments where people just say something, you're just like, oh. There was one of my followers commented when I said that pitch in a post recently. She was like, my reaction to messy millennial paranormal rom-com is akin to when a dog's owner says, want to go for a walk?
I love that.
My whole month has been made by that comment. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was just like, that's it. That's forever the mark that I will try to write by.
Yes, you need to print that out and just post it on the wall. And didn't I'm not to name names about agents, but like, didn't an agent say that like the messy millennial was like what she was thirsting for? Was that? Make that up?
Yeah, I don't know, but I'll love it.
That's what you need to search on, like manuscript wish list. You
I
know how
will.
they have like the search engines? Just put like thirsty
Thirsty
millennial.
armor love. No, I will. I actually love trolling hashtag manuscript wishlist. And I say it like that because that's what it is. It's separate. So for our listeners, actually, this is a really valuable resource if you don't know about it. There's the manuscript wish list where it's like a website and it says what an agent wants. And like, they're not all on there though, surprisingly. Like
Right.
a lot of them are, but sometimes some of them just aren't on there. I guess it's often similar to what's on their websites. Maybe that's why. But the real tool, which Angela has brought up, is the hashtag MSWL website, which it brings up. So you can literally search like hashtag paranormal, hashtag romcom, hashtag whatever the agent. Not for the agent, you would say that they're at blah, blah, blah. And it will pull up tweets from the agents, tweets like looking for those specific things, the agents who are looking for it, rah, rah, rah. So yeah, I use that all the time. I'm good work bringing that up, because sometimes I feel like those little things, those are little nuggets. Like if I heard that on a podcast 5 years ago, it would have been like earth shattering, you know?
Yes.
So
No, you got to get on that, Melanie. You need to get on. And then is it Query Shark or Query Tracker? One of them's like a paid one, like you pay monthly or maybe just once, and it gives you like exactly what agents, like their timeline, like how when, and it shows like your progress in their actual like submission pile.
I see. I think it's Query Manager. I haven't used that
Oh,
yet.
yeah.
Have you? Have you used
No,
it?
but my friend Kelsey, she did it while she was querying, and she
Yeah.
was knowing her, she was probably on that website all damn day. And because it's just one of those things that you get kind of obsessed about because it's really fun to see your progress and to see where everybody else is and how it's working.
Yeah.
But she highly recommended it. I remember her saying on, I think it was TikTok. So
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. I think yeah, my fear with that is I'll spend all day on it.
I know, I know. It's easy to do. Querying is one of those kind of fun things where it's like now it gives you like this thing to like search and dig into and like hunt down the right agent and the one that is looking for what you have, which I can't imagine they all have to be looking for what you've got because that book is so good. So it's happening. It's a fun time.
It is a fun time, I'll admit. And you know what the ironic thing is, like, I don't know if it's ironic, but like when we were saying like that I feel more experienced now, but I'm like, I don't think I'm as high strung about it as I used to be. Like, I feel like it's not that I'm not as excited, it's not that I'm not as hopeful. I am. But I feel like before, when I would send queries, I would be like, everything hinges on this. This is my dream agent. But the thing is, I've been doing it for like what, like 5 years or something. At this point, I know that, like, you know, all these things can be everything or they can be nothing,
Mm.
is that stark. And it's kind of like, as messed up as it is part of what makes it fun to, like you said, like the treasure hunt of it all. I do enjoy it. And so I kind of want to give myself permission to enjoy it. And she's got a list she's putting together for this first round. Oh, I mean, you and Para have set the fire under my ass. You're like, bitch, just query them all. I was like, they're going to be like, just send out a small batch. And both of you were just like, just send it.
Send it all, baby. Send it all. We want thousands of queries in the trenches from Melanie Schubert.
Yes.
Everywhere. I think because I remember like querying, and that was the advice that they used to give was like just send in small batches, see what works. Mm-hmm. Listen to Jessica Para. She knows all. We are confidant. Yours is working. Your query is ready. So, and I don't think we're in this same age of sending and waiting because agents, as we know, are so overworked and they have an influx.
Yes.
So it's like you might as well get your shit out there 100%. So that it's ready when the call comes and you're like, okay, well, let me call the 50,000 other agents that I have.
That's what I said to Phil, my husband. I was like, worst case scenario, say 20 agents want it at once. I was like, if I have to send 19 emails going, I'm so sorry. Like, I've decided to go with such and such. Is that the worst thing? I don't think it is. And you know what? There's something to be said about just pouncing on it, because the reason I wound up sending 2 yesterday, I can cut this out. Well, I don't know. I'll see how I feel when I say it. The reason I wound up sending 2 last night is after I sent Linda the pages, I was like, oh, well, now I've sent my first query. Like, who else is on my list? Who else am I really excited about? So I wrote down the obvious ones, like that we've had on the show or that have requested work from me before. And then I was like, I don't even know what made me think about it. I was like, well, who's at the Bent agency? I used to like look at them all the time. Is there anyone there that I want on my list? And I was like, oh, Jenny Bent, but she's never open. But in my writerly OCD way, she reps Stephanie Garber, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I'll just check. I always check because, sometimes they're open for like a week or whatever.
Yes.
And she is open, and I have queried her for the first time in like 6 years after Googling her. She's always shut. And when I queried her, because I said to Phil, I was like, I'm not going to wait. These motherfuckers close like that. I have literally had seen agents open for a week and then be like, oh, we were inundated with queries. We're going to have to shut this, whatever. So I was like, I'll just send it. Literally, the email that came through was like, I'm inundated with queries. Anything that comes to me after the 20th, I won't be able to read. I was like, that is a week away. One single week, if I didn't think to look her up, which I very well may have forgotten if I didn't do it that moment, because she's not even on my list anymore because she's always shut. And she's literally looking for like in adult, like not paranormal specifically. She said like speculative fantasy, just everything. I was like, it could actually be a fit for her list. I was so shocked. So it pays to like pounce on it and just go for it because yeah. And if she says no, whatever, like it's okay. I wasn't expecting to be able to query her.
Yeah. Pounce on it, baby. Pounce on that shit.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, speaking of talented, amazing writers, as we were just talking about you, Melanie, let's bring it to our glorious guest. We have Trang Thanh Tran on the show today. They wrote She Is a Haunting, which is to die for. This book. And it's coming out in just a few weeks from when this airs, probably just a week from when this airs. So get ready. Pre-order now while you can. They're selling out fast. Pre-order now, guys. Let me read their amazing bio. Trang Thanh Tran is a Vietnamese American writer telling all stories scary, otherworldly, and emotional. Trang grew up in a big family in Philadelphia, but now calls the South home. They're an alum of the Writing Barn's Rainbow Weekend and Tin House's YA Fiction Workshop. When not writing, they're busy trying new food and watching too many zombie movies. Their gothic horror debut, She Is a Haunting, is forthcoming from Bloomsbury in winter 2023. You can find them on Twitter under @NVTran.
Bloomsbury.
What did I say?
Bloomsbury. I loved it though. The rest was perfect. It was probably the best bio we've ever had read on the show.
Oh, yes.
It was. We usually like really butcher it.
We do pretty bad. I must admit. But, it's all part of the fun of the show.
Yes. I think as soon as the spotlight is on you and you have to read, it's like back in high school when they would make you read an excerpt and you just freeze up.
Every freaking time. Every time. But teachers should just learn to just not do that to us.
Or they need to do it more to prepare us for bio reading.
I guess you're right. It's part of life. You're going to have to read things out loud. I guess you're right, Melanie.
Exactly. Well, we cannot wait for this episode. It honestly had so much fun chatting today. Like, once again, like I said, you are a pro at just having good friends. Is that a thing?
Well, you know what? When I saw this cover, when I saw She Is a Haunting, I was like, whatever I have to do, I'm going to get them on the show. Whoever I have to fill, I'm just kidding. But it worked out.
Yeah.
And so, hello.
Hi.
Hey, Trang, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're so good. We are so excited to have you on. Melanie got up nice and early for you. She primped and prepped, and it got beautified because...
Oh my goodness, 6 a.m.
Well, my husband leaves for work at like before 4, and so today I was like, just wake me up before you go. I regretted it. I wanted to nap after, but you got me with a face on instead of the gremlin that was in the room a second ago.
Yeah, I was thinking Melanie should have just stayed in that haunting early morning mode because she could have been cosplaying. Although your cover is gorgeous, so not that Melanie's not. I'm sorry. Let me just go back. Let me circle back.
Start over.
Let me start that over.
It's fine. I'm a full swamp monster when I wake up. I'm not one of those girls who's like, look at me. I woke up and I'm so dewy. It's like my hair's like this and the dribble. It's accurate.
No, I set time aside. I was like, all right, Trang, you got to go get ready. Get out of your pajamas. It's like noon.
I'm in from the top up. I'm good. Bottom down.
I think you should give us a tour of the room you're in. Just like lift up the camera.
No one needs to know. No one needs to know. Well, welcome to the show. We are so excited. I've been bragging just before we got on. I was bragging to Melanie about your book, She is a Haunting, because, oh my gosh. Wow. Like I'm going to send this to Melanie. And so otherwise I was going to annotate because there's so many lines in here that just strike you and you just want to like reread over and over again. They're just so good and haunting and beautiful and terrifying. It's all the things. So thank you for sending me this arc because I got a sneak peek into your brain and I'm a little scared, but I'm very excited as well. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Trang Thanh Tran, and I'm the author of She is a Haunting, which is my debut novel. It's coming out in 2 weeks with Bloomsbury. So I'm originally from Philadelphia, but I've been living in the South for many, many years now. I'm currently based in Atlanta. I'm a huge horror movie fan. It's actually how I got into horror in general, but I sort of have this duality thing going on. So it's either I really love this terrifying stuff, horror, Haunting of Hill House, or I love like really heartwarming like K-dramas. So it's like that sort of thing going on with me. That's basically it.
You're speaking to our heart.
Yes, you are our crew because we are 2 K-drama fans here as well. So I have to ask, what are some of your favorites?
Okay, so my favorite is the Reply series, and that they have that on Netflix. So it's like the one that is my favorite. I think it's 1988. It's either 1988 or 1987, and it's like this family drama slash comedy. Another favorite, which is like a rom-com, is A Business Proposal. I watched it recently and it's so good. It's so funny. It just like turns all like the genre tropes on its head. Like it just knows how to play into things and like, yeah, totally love it.
I second that one. I second that one for sure. K-drama, they just know how to do it right. I mean, they lean into, for me, the ones that I've been watching, like they lean into like just the cheese and just like going all in. And I love it. And it feels like that's for me is what is sort of missing with a lot of like romantic American romantic comedies is like we're missing that lean into of just embracing the tropes and all the cheesy goodness. And that's why like I just cannot get enough K-dramas lately. Like I just need that heartfelt goodness.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's like the one I'm watching now, I thought I wasn't going to like it, but then I heard so many good things. True Beauty. And it was like, girl learns to master makeup and make herself beautiful in school. And I was like, I'm not going to like that. I am so invested one episode in. And it's exactly what Angela's said. It's these little human moments. Like just straight away, I think of this scene where her brother is like tormenting her. He takes like an ugly photo of her that she perceives as ugly. And then he's like gonna blackmail her with it. And it's like, it's real. We all grew up with like siblings or friends who did that stuff to us. It's just extra. So I want to ask, did you always want to be a writer?
Yes. And it started all from reading. So like reading is such like a magical experience when you're a kid, especially when you like grow up poor and in a rural area, right? You're transported into these other worlds. And once I realized that actual people wrote books, I was like obsessed with that idea. And I started writing, but I wanted to be a writer, but when I was 18, my mom was like, maybe not, because my mom, my family, most of them in the US are refugees. So, they came here, for a better life and all of these things. And they, and me too, like I really value a regular paying job, that stability that provides. And so for the longest time, I was like, I shut myself off from the possibility of being a writer. And it wasn't until like recent years, I was like, I have to try, like I love it so much. I have to try.
So I'm so glad you did because what a powerful and gripping story you produced. Did you read a lot of horror growing up?
I mean, I read a lot of like Stephen King when I was in like high school and in college because like that's I don't know why, but library shelves are always full of Stephen King, maybe because he just writes so much. But as a kid, I liked, like I said before, like I watched a ton of horror movies. I had access to the TV remote like way too early, so I was watching like the Sci-Fi Channel when I was like 6. Totally shouldn't have been, but that's how I got into horror, basically.
Like, were we all just sneaking TV we shouldn't have been watching? Like, for me, it was like romantic stuff, like the naughty
Mhm.
stuff, and like, although it didn't take much. I grew up really conservative, so everything felt super naughty to me. I was like, my gosh, like, Charmed is evil, you know? So it all felt naughty, but it's like, we all just like, whatever they told us not to watch, we're like, I'll watch that.
Yeah.
That's
Such a
exactly right.
curiosity gets piqued, right? You're like, I want to know what the forbidden thing is.
Mm-hmm. And thank goodness we snuck into our into our living rooms at night and we were able to find out. And here we are now, romance and horror writers.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your querying and submission journey?
Yeah, so it was a really lucky journey. It's like a true unicorn experience where like I wrote the book in about 3.5 months, revised to 3 to 4 months, and then I started querying in April, and then like 3 days later I had my first offer of representation. So it happened really quickly. And the response was just amazing. And after I signed with my agent, we had another like lightning round of revision or just like small touches, making things make more sense. And then we went on submission in early June. And then we had our first signs of interest in like 2 to 3 days. And then we went to auction 2.5 weeks later. So like I signed with my agent and then like I sold the book all in a matter of like 2 to 3 months. And it was completely bananas, like the most wild roller coaster ride happening. I didn't even know what was happening. I did not expect it at all, but yeah, it was just like magical unicorn experience.
Yeah. What was your writing journey like up to that point? Had you written much before then, or was it like the first book you'd written?
So I had written a lot of like fan fiction and like all that kind of stuff, but this was like the first book I completed. So I was actually working on a different book before I worked on this one. And I wrote like 30,000 words there, and I was like, this is not working. And it was a dark fantasy YA, and I kind of just started over and I landed on horror, and that's kind of where and how I started writing the book. So it was like the first book. I totally didn't expect for everything to happen so quickly. I didn't expect for the book to just kind of, it almost like wrote itself in a way, which is really annoying because my other books are definitely not writing themselves. So.
Yeah. That second book are you going to revisit any of the ones that you were kind of working on before all of this happened?
I think maybe because like the characters still live in my mind. It's just like everything else that was not working. So I was like, one day I'll come back to this, right? But for now, I have a bunch of like other horror ideas that I want to get back into and kind of revisit. And especially because I want to write adult eventually, it's sort of like, how do I find the balance of writing YA and then finding time to write this as well?
Yes.
Mm.
I can only imagine you writing adult. I am excited for that. Get to work. I'm ready.
Yeah, seriously.
I want to ask, what inspired you to write it?
So I started writing it in like early October 2020, and like obviously we were all stuck inside our houses. And it's the first horror story I started writing, and it obviously inspired by just being stuck inside, right? And being like, what is going on with all the abandoned houses? Like, I always feel like abandoned houses must be so lonely, right? Like, they're just there on their own. And that's kind of like how the seed of the idea started. And it was because it was spooky season. I was like, okay, what are the things that you're most afraid of, right? And at the time, I realized, it wasn't really ghosts, it wasn't werewolves, it wasn't like all these things. It was like, when I thought about really what scared me, I was like, okay, going back to Vietnam with my mom, because, I was born in the US. I don't speak Vietnamese very well. And she's been asking me to go back to Vietnam with her for a while, and I keep telling her no. And I realize it's because, because I'm afraid, right? I'm afraid of going back and feeling like I don't really belong there, like I stick out. And so I kind of like channeled all of like these personal fears into the main character Jade. And that's kind of like where the emotional experience come from. Like her emotional journey is from like all these fears that I've had. And then everything with like the environment was just like, what if you're just stuck inside a house, So it's like combining all of my favorite things, right? Like a really emotional story, creepy houses, midnight strolls, ghosts, like just throw it all in there.
It's perfect. You can tell it's so layered. And like, just like what you were saying, there's so many dimensions to this story. It's not just a horror. It's not just about the spooky house. It's about what Jade's going through personally and her family dynamic with her father, with everything. And I really, really appreciated that because it just felt like it gave you everything. But let's lead into that. Can you give us a quick synopsis of what She Is a Haunting is about?
So She Is a Haunting is about the 17-year-old Vietnamese American girl named Jade Win. And she is queer but closeted, and she always feels like she's stuck between sort of two cultures, two identities, right? So like the real her, and then like this her that she's afraid to explore. And she doesn't feel like she quite belongs anywhere. So at the start of the book, she goes back to Vietnam to visit her estranged father, with whom she has a really difficult relationship, because he promises her college money to stay after she stays the summer with him in this house in Dilac, that he's renovating to be like a sort of like an almost like a bed and breakfast situation. And and it turns out the place has some creepy things happening, right? And so the whole book is about, what happens if the one place you belong is haunted, and what if that place is so hungry for new residents that once you step inside, you can never leave? And what happens if a really hot and beautiful ghost asks you to stay? So the book is sort of like this, it's a ghost story, but at its heart, I feel like it's a family story. It's about her difficult relationship with her dad. It's about why her dad's back in Vietnam in the first place, about their family history there and what it means to try and rewrite that history and kind of reclaim it for yourself. So it's a family story, it's a ghost story, but at its heart, I also wanted it to be a coming of age story because, Jade's a teenager and she does some really teenage-y things, right? Like her dad doesn't believe her that it's haunted. And so she decides she's going to haunt the house herself, with help from this really cute girl named Florence, and so the whole story is just really figuring out like how far you would go to belong somewhere.
Mm-hmm. We were just talking about that on our last episode, like that ultimately in story, it's these little human things that like we all want to hear about more. And like coming of age, it never gets old for me. I feel like if you ever stop coming of age throughout your life, you kind of like die a little bit or something. Like I always learn something new from coming of age stories. And it's those little things that just like pull at our soul and kind of like, I don't know, like guide our path through life. Or I know it sounds cheesy, but like I'm all about the cheese. So it sounds amazing. Angela's gonna have to send it to me. It sounds right up my alley. Kind of like a spooky, like Japanese yokai situation. Have you ever watched Natsume's Book of Friends?
Oh, I haven't.
I think you would like it. If you like any anime, it's very like there's all these like Japanese spirits and just kind of that unsettling, but like the human element, like the kind of desire and like loneliness and what it belonging. I think you'd like it.
Oh, I'm writing it down. I'm gonna look it up right after.
Yeah,
you should. Well, and going back to what you were saying, Melanie, and trying about YA in particular, it's coming of age and like learning these lessons. I was recently listening to David Yoon, and he was talking about the difference between YA and adult is YA asks these questions but it also kind of gives you answers of how to deal with those things and coming of age. And it's hopeful. And I think that's why so many people gravitate towards YA, is because we're still looking for those answers ourselves and exploring. And YA kind of offers answers at the end, where adult is more open-ended and a little bit more on the cynical side. And so, it's like, even after dealing with this haunted house, there's still this like hopeful ending, and there's always twists. But like, I think for me personally, that's why I've just been so in love with YA, is it gives us kind of what I think a lot of us are searching for, which is a little bit of hope, and then a little bit of almost like closure of, okay, yes, all these things I'm trying to learn, I can find it in YA. And, I just love that hopefulness, even through the chaos and mayhem and horror of it all, which I really, really love. But I wanted to ask you, did you ever freak yourself out while writing this story?
Yes. And first off, I'm a very vivid dreamer, and some of the things in the book were from like dreams that I've had that I like repurposed for the book. So that's one thing where I was like dreaming a lot of weird stuff. But the second thing, the thing that really freaked me out is that in the book, there's sort of like this thematic element of bugs, bugs in the house, bugs dying on Jade's windowsill. And I was writing this book in the middle of winter. And I mean, winter in the South is not very cold, but at the same time, it's cold enough where you expect there not to be like a lot of bugs. But I had this experience where I was like finding bugs in really strange places. Like I found a wasp on my windowsill, even though I hadn't had my windows opened. Like all winter, I was finding like spiders like right above my bed, like not in a corner, just like right above my bed. But the worst experience, and maybe I need a content warning for this, is so every morning I drink an iced coffee, and I make it and I bring it to my office and I do my thing. And that day I was drinking my iced coffee, and there was this crunch, and you would think that it's like a like a piece of ice or something, but then I tasted like this tiny bit of saltiness, and I was like, what is this? And I spat it out. It was a carpenter ant, which are first, they're big. And second of all, I had no carpenter ant infestation in my house. I didn't see another carpenter ant anywhere. So how did it get in my coffee? And there are carpenter ants in the book. So, and I was like, the book is sending me a warning. I can't handle it. But after that, I got a coffee container that has a lid, and I always supervise it now, because like, holy crap.
Oh my gosh, that would be me for sure. Like I only dabble in slightly spooky stuff, but even then I spook myself out. Like I wrote a scene where she sees like the ghost, her date, in the mirror, and I was just like, couldn't look at mirror, but it was like tame. It wasn't like super scary, I didn't think. And and then after I was like, could not look at mirrors for weeks. It's like, I would be the same. I would be like, for the rest of your life, you were going to have your coffee firmly sealed. And if an ant dares to get in your coffee, you're probably going to like stop drinking coffee.
Yeah, you have to give it up.
Oh, yeah, no. Call the exterminator. No, thank you. I had chills when you were saying it, because it's just so gross.
It really is. Well, now I know what carpenter ants taste like, so.
I mean, hey, there's something to that, I mean, I don't know what the positive spin on that is, but let's just try it.
I wrote this book and all I got was an ant in my mouth.
That should be the pitch. That should be like how they sell it.
That's the top tier quote. That's perfect.
Or it should be in the warning at the front. Warning may cause ant infestation.
Yeah.
I see that. I believe it. Would you describe your writing style? How would you describe it? Are you a pantser, a plotter? Are you somewhere in between? Because I know you said you wrote it fast. So were you just going through?
Well, I'm sort of in between where like I have to know the ending to every story that I write, and then I try to have like sort of like these tentpole moments or scenes that I'm writing towards. And so it's a little bit like of holding a flashlight and kind of figuring it out until I get to the next checkpoint. But it's a little bit chaotic because I love everything to like the line level, and sometimes I get inspired. And I really love mood in a book, and sometimes I get inspired of like these just tiny moments, and they happen everywhere in the book. So it's sort of like when I'm writing a chapter, I'll have a few lines for the beginning, and then I'll skip down and I'll write a few lines that belong in the middle, and then I'll skip down some more, and then I'll have that throughout the book. Like sometimes a line will come inside my head, and then I'm like, okay, this belongs like way later in the book. So it's sort of like looking at a piece of cheese and then trying to like fill in the holes because yeah, it's just how my brain works sometimes.
Yeah.
Got to go with whatever your brain needs, whatever's necessary. I love the idea of like the flashlight, like searching your way through the dark to get to the goods. And the cheese analogy was great too. But I'm hungry.
Yes.
Welcome.
We were talking about baked goods earlier, and that's all I want now. I did find there was leftover pizza from last night in the fridge that my husband forgot to take to work, and I was like, that's a gift right there. I want to ask, what has been the hardest part of your writing journey so far?
I think the hardest part has actually been the second book, writing the second book. And I actually think it goes beyond just like the second book syndrome. It's sort of like like once you sell a book, it's like how do you balance like the business part of yourself and the art writer part of yourself, right? Because I do want writing to be a career. But at the same time, it's like you have to have a passion for your books and your stories. But when I was writing the second book, I was like, does this fit my brand? Will my readers like this book? Like, you know, will my agent like this book? Will my editor like this book? Like it just happens where like there's so many voices inside your head. And I got so confused about like what I wanted to say with my next book, right? And it really sucked. It really sucked to kind of like feel like you don't have that grasp on like what made you like writing, made you love writing in the first place, because it's like, who am I? It's like an identity crisis. It's like, now that I've sold a book, what do I do? Basically.
Yeah. And then it's also just like this added pressure of they're expecting your editor, your agent, whoever are expecting, because they've read this, you know, beautiful book. And so it's this pressure of, can I reperform? Can I give them what they're expecting? And I always hear, and I've experienced myself, the second book is incredibly difficult. And also just like mentally, I don't know. It felt like for me, the first book I wrote it was just a free for all and just fun. And there was no pressure because I didn't have an agent. I didn't have anything. I was just writing. And then now the second time around, there is that added pressure of I have to get it somewhat right. I mean, obviously it'll get changed again and tweaked once the editor gets to it, but it's so hard. And then also balancing being an author, on the business side and the creative side, just like you said, because not that it says that we're supposed to be, or no one says it, but having a presence on either it's social media or, you know, in the Discord groups with other authors, you know, being out and about as well as writing, it's a challenge, and living and doing other things too. It's so hard. And it feels like it's like a constant struggle of juggling which one comes first. And for me, usually it's writing and all this stuff. And then the house stuff, you know, it comes when it comes. And the chores come when they come. But it's such a struggle. I'm there with you.
Yeah. Well, it's two different jobs. Like they're two complete, like the writer, the hermit, the creative is so at odds with the publicist, the business, whatever. And yeah, I think it's something that a lot of writers will feel like when we approach it, like we want to do this as a career. And I feel like lately I'm trying to like let those other parts of myself grow like slowly and naturally. Because maybe when you get to this point and you suddenly like, oh, I need a platform, I need this, and that's where a lot of the pressure comes from. But it will grow slowly. It's all going to come anyway, because the writing is your gift, and people are going to come looking for that anyway. As long as the platform is there on some level, they'll find you, I think. And I think hopefully people are gentle with us as we learn a little bit. I mean, I now edit and do this podcast. I'm not a technology person at all. I'm like, we're both hermits, and here we are doing this podcast and like all this social media stuff. But it was like step by agonizing step. Like the first time I made an Instagram account, I was like, what is this? And it's like when you show like your parents Instagram, it's like a mystery to them how anything works, but it's all like that at the start.
That's true. I like that what you said, Mel. The writing is the key. That's the main thing. Number one is writing first, and all the rest comes. And I think that's beautiful. So good. What has been the best, most rewarding part of your journey so far?
I think the first thing, and this is because I was able to, like, it was such a unicorn experience, and I was able to help my mom pay off part of her house with my advance money. And that was great because she was the one who was like, no, you can't be a writer. And now I'm like, look at this. Look at what I'm doing. So it's a little petty, but full of love,
Yes.
I love that so much. That's the best kind of petty. You're like raining down your love.
Yeah. I'm like, just take this. Look at what I'm doing. And now she calls me all the time and she's like, what's going on with your second book? Did you turn it in? Your deadline's coming up, right? And I'm like, please just stop. You're not getting a 15% cut. So please just. So that has been rewarding, where like my mom was able to do this for my mom, and like she's been really sweet, and like just realizing that this is what I want to do, right? The second thing that has been really rewarding is when readers tell me that my story touched them in some way, like a personal chord, or they cried. And obviously, I love stories for what they are. If they're funny, they're fun. They don't need to be anything deeper. But for me, at least with She's a Haunting, like it made it feel really special when readers tell me that like something struck them personally about it, just because it's sort of like that quote, and I can't remember who said it, but it's like, writing is about, writing down a feeling and asking like, is this how it feels for you too? Right. And it's kind of like finding that feeling and seeing if other people experience this the way that you do, or experience it the way that your character does. And that's just been really great. So yeah, I love making people cry. So.
I love it. Yes, that's beautiful. I'm gonna have to remember that quote and just like live by that. I think that's beautiful. And hey, helping mom pay off some mortgage bills, I think that's pretty freaking amazing. We live off petty, petty,
yes.
petty living. I think we can all use it.
Such a mic drop moment.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that scares you when it comes to being an author?
I think this relates to my earlier answer. It's just like the potential of like falling out of writing, like falling out of love with writing, right? Because I feel like in 2022, like it was such a difficult experience for me writing the second book, and it was almost like I wasn't living the rest of my life, because if I wasn't writing, I was anxious about writing. And if I was writing, I was anxious about it not being good writing. And so it was just like at the end of 2022, I was like, what did I do this year? And the only thing I did was worry and write, but it wasn't like the type of writing that made me feel happy, And that scares me about being an author, is when, the pressures of deadline, the pressures of producing, the pressures of, being relevant or keeping on a schedule, like make you kind of tired of writing in a way. And I think that's really scary. And so like my thing this year is like, find your way back to loving the experience, right? Live your life and write sometimes, basically.
I love that. I love that so much. Do you feel like you're finally listening to your own advice, to the advice that we all need to listen to?
I mean, a little bit more. I'm still on deadline, but at the same time, I'm also planning. Like last year, I didn't see any friends basically, but this year, I'm like, all right, I'm going here in June. I'm going here in August. So I'm like setting things up where I'm like looking forward to it and I'm making myself go out.
Good. I love that. And now, looking back at all you've accomplished, what advice would you give a younger version of yourself before you started this journey? Would it be along those same lines?
It's hard because it's like if like all my experiences kind of made me the me that could write this book. But at the same time, I think I would give the advice for my younger self, like, yes, relax a little bit when you're writing. That's the first thing. But the second thing I think would be like finding a community earlier of other writers and other people that you can kind of talk to. Because, because I didn't entertain the idea of being a writer, like I really shut myself off from like the writing world and books in general. And it wasn't until recently that like I became more involved online and like really making friends with other writers. And I feel like that for any young writer is good, when you can make friends and have people to talk nerdy stuff with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's life-changing making the community versus working alone. Like I'd probably still be pushing the one first book I wrote. If it was like just me alone, like you don't have those checkpoints. Having like not just the checkpoints, but like the cheer squad, the people who get what it is to do this, it's so worth taking the time. And I think honestly necessary going forward, because like every part is hard. Every part there's a new boundary to cross. And it's so wonderful when you meet people and like, I remember that. I remember that second book fear. I remember that query angst, whatever it is. Like you're less alone on the journey.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing to have that community. I mean, that's Melanie always, and I always say this is why we did this podcast in the first place, was to build our community, to expose people to authors and agents and editors that they might not otherwise have been exposed to. I mean, it's for us, community is everything. And really, I probably would have given up many a times, many months or years ago, had I not had the community to kind of keep me accountable, to be honest with you. And so I want to ask, we've mentioned and talked about book 2. Are there any hints you can give us about what we can expect?
So it's another YA horror, and it's about a monster who learns to love herself.
Oh, I got a chill. That's so beautiful. That hits everything. Oh, well, I see our time has like completely evaporated. Is there any like final thing you'd love to share with like our listeners, budding writers, writers in the trenches, writers writing book 2?
Eat lots of good food, see your friends, and just live your life if you want things to write about, because it's through all these things that you enjoy and are experiencing that I feel like the honest writing comes from.
I don't think anyone could have said it better. I think that's beautiful. And yes, we need to live. Well, thank you so much for joining us and just chatting about all things writing and your book. And we're just so excited for you and to see how this book is just going to blow up. I mean, for myself personally, I'm your number 1 fan. So I just know this book is going to blow up. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you for joining us. Where can our listeners find you?
So I'm on Twitter at NVTran or on Instagram at NVTran_.
Yes. Perfect. Well, honestly, it's been so wonderful chatting with you, and we'll be cheering for you and your wonderful spooky book, which I will brave, even though I'm scared of the ants now.